So the third film in the Ty West trilogy is finally here. Maxine is out in theaters, and I just got out of an early access screening where I got to see this movie for my very first time. So without further ado, let's discuss this film. Let's talk about it. Let's get into the movie review for Maxine. Let's go. Maxine is a horror thriller directed by Ty West and is the third film into what I'd like to call his X Factor trilogy, with all of these films being starred by the one, the only Mia Goth, my favorite actress in Hollywood at this current moment, one of my favorite actors in the business overall, and I'm so glad to finally get to see how this trilogy was going to conclude, how he was going to wrap up the story that he set off with X, and of course we got the prequel Pearl, and now we finally have the third film, Maxine, with Maxine surviving and being involved in some horrific events that took place inside of that film. And where we are in this film, she finally has made it out into Hollywood. She's finally working on a big budget Hollywood movie and making progress on her goal to be this big movie star. Now, when we pick up with her inside this film, Maxine Miller has now taken up the alias Maxine Minx, where she's using this not only to get away from her past and the events that happened in X, but also so that she can have a stage name for herself out in Hollywood, which is Maxine Minx. Now, while being closer than ever to achieving her dreams, she begins being haunted by ghosts and skeletons in her past that won't stop affecting her until she makes the hard decision to confront her past head on, and that is the overall story that you're getting here in this film. Now, I don't want to speak too much on the story side because there is heavy spoilers involved with this film. However, I will say that while I love Pearl, it's not as relevant when it comes to this film. This is more of a direct sequel to X, where we see a lot of the events inside of that movie coming back into relevancy inside of this one, along with continuing with a lot of the themes set up inside of X that followed over from Pearl and now into the third film, Maxine. Now, this film is set in 1985, and considering that it's set right in the middle of the 80s, while our protagonist is in Hollywood, we get a love letter to the 80s in two horror films that came from that time. Now, this film pays homage to horror films that came before it, with us even getting to see the set of Bates Motel inside of this film, which you can actually see at Universal Studios. If you've ever been there yourself, I would highly recommend it. Now, because of that, we get a great retro vibe over this entire film from beginning to end, which is something I really love about this film and all three of these films, because they're so distinct in their vision and the way that they approached each time period. Now, not only do the themes of Hollywood and making a movie return in this film, but also the religious themes that have been set up inside each and every single one of these films also, and that comes to a forefront inside of this film. Now, if you've seen the trailer, you would know that other things that were happening in the 80s at this time in LA, such as the Night Stalker, come into play inside of this film and create a worry about our main character, Maxine. Now, when it comes to Maxine Minx, she is a cold-blooded savage inside of this film. She is not a victim like in the first movie. In this one, you could tell that the events have really had an effect on her, and while she's been dealing with all of that trauma, she's also transformed herself into a much stronger version, and you definitely get to see that in this character inside of this film due to Mia Goth's amazing portrayal. I can't tell you enough how brilliant she is inside of this trilogy, inside all of these films, really in every film I've ever seen her in. She really captivates this character in every single character she's ever portrayed. She is always the highlight of every film I've seen her in. Her acting is on another tier inside of these movies, though I do feel she was a bit toned back from her performances inside of X and inside of Pearl. Now, this film is well paced. It held my attention the entire way through from start to finish, and it ties up a lot of loose ends that were left open inside of the X film, such as Maxine's past, where she comes from, and who she truly is as a person. And when it comes to this film, I thought this was a great addition to this trilogy. I didn't know where they would take this character next, and I definitely appreciated the approach that Ty West went with this film and went with this character inside of Maxine. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and drop the official rating, the official score for Maxine. I give Maxine by Ty West a 8.5 out of 10. It gets the 8.5 out of 10. An amazing addition to this horror thriller trilogy, a great way to conclude it. I'm glad that, I got to see how this story ends, though I will say he did leave it open-ended in the end of this film. We could potentially see more films inside this X universe, and that's not to mention that Ty West himself has said in an interview that he's not particularly done with this X franchise, and that we'll see where things go in the future for these films based on this movie's performance, I assume, at the box office and with the fans as a whole. And overall, this is a legendary combination. Mia Goth, Ty West, these two need to keep making films together. We always get magic when they make a film together, when Mia Goth is the protagonist here, and we're getting to see the camera work and the magic and the writing behind the scenes from Ty West. And I can't wait to see what both of these individuals do next in their career. Hopefully, it brings them together in the future once again, which I'm sure more than likely we'll see. That's typically how actors and directors, build a relationship and work together. And I gotta say, at the early access screening, it was pretty packed in there, more than I expected to see. There was plenty of passionate fans for this trilogy, so much so that me and a couple other people inside the theater stayed all the way until the black screen hit. So that should tell you how much this trilogy affected not only me, but also other people, which I love to see, considering I feel like these are pretty niche films inside the horror and thriller genres. And I gotta say, A24 hit it out of the park. Once again, another brilliant film under their banner. It continues to prove over and over why this is my favorite studio in Hollywood. And yeah, I'm very happy I got to see this film and bring this review to all of you. I'm curious to know your thoughts on Maxine and the overall X Factor trilogy down in the comment section down below. Have you seen this film yet? Are you excited for it? If you have seen it, what did you feel and think about it? Let me know all that down in the comments down below. If you don't know what we do here on Demigod ENT, we do film and TV reactions and reviews. So if you're interested in any of this movie-based content, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next review. Peace.